Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I've been hearing a lot of, well, not a lot of rumors, but rumors involving THT's name, uh, which are, they hold value here because I think THT is a player that is very easily moved. Now, at $10 million a year for the next 2 years, it's not as bad as a contract as it was last season. It has matured some, so bringing it in this year is a good chance he makes a jump if you give him a very good role that puts the ball in his hands. With Westbrook undoubtedly going out, and with the circumstances as they are, Westbrook is going to probably have us attach other pieces to him to move, possibly a pick, maybe even some players. So depending on how that goes would determine if retaining THT will allow him the opportunity to have the ball in his hands at any given moment. And that would determine whether or not I like his upside for us over the next 1.5 years. And I say 1.5 because obviously you could trade him at the trade deadline as an expiring contract next season. So for me, it's like if we can't get the most out of THT between now and then that's the crux, the crux, I guess, of the value that he means to us in my mind. Because at that point, it's an audition between now and then for him to play himself up to earn an extension that we would then be willing to pay him. If we can't give him the role to get him to play that value up, depending on how you look at it, it may determine whether or not you'd be willing to retain him. Now, some may say if you give him a lesser role, it keeps his value low, and from there, we can kind of sign him to a deal that is in our favor. By the time we do that, he'll be 22 and a half years old, 23 years old. He still hasn't entered his prime at that point. He still hasn't fully developed at that point. So that's why you get rid of THT now, because when it's time to pay him, chances are he hasn't done enough to make you pay him then, and you haven't put him in a position to do so. So that's why you get rid of him in my mind. And so in doing so, I want to make sure I do that in a way that makes sense, because at the end of the day, he's a wing under the age of 22 years old. So even though he's played not so well, you understand how valuable he is, especially in this climate. What ruins that value is the contract that you signed him to. Him as a prototype is most definitely something you should want. And for teams with cap space, him at $10 million a year with the intention of re-signing him for, say, like a team like Indiana who has the young pieces, or a team like San Antonio that has the young pieces, it might make sense for them to give him 1.5 years to see if he wants to audition for them with the ball in his hands. So Utah, San Antonio, all these new rebuilding type situations. Brooklyn is a team I like him for. All of these situations are good. And I think he would help teams if they just give him an opportunity to develop. Like I said, put the ball in his hands and let him do what he does. You'll see that he has a lot of mechanics, and as the more reps he gets, the more his rhythm shots are going to start taking off, the more you'll start to see what THT's real upside is. He's got a lot of stuff in his game that he could add to it from here, including step back moves and things that he could do with his footwork and rhythm from behind the arc and things of that nature that he's only just now beginning to find himself in. And so he can already drive at the basket. He's got long arms, big hands. So there are metrics there that make you see him as somebody that you want to overpay early, which is why we did. The metrics, the body itself needs to be valued, which is another reason why the Lakers should consider what bringing him back actually means and fully evaluate that for what it's worth, because he is a young player who has those metrics. And when he does become 25, 26, 27 years old, he'll undoubtedly be at the very least, a PJ Tucker type of role guy. And at best, he's an all-star. So I'm not worried about his upside. I've seen a million kids come through our organization over the last 10 years who've struggled early just as he has and have turned out fine just like I expect him to. In fact, I have more belief in him than some of those guys that I'm thinking about. So THT is going to be just fine. He's just not in a good space right now, and we gave him a bad contract. So the moral of the story is this. Once you start talking about trading him away, then you got to start making sense of what you're trading him for. I heard a lot of people say Patrick Beverley. Now, do I want Patrick Beverley on this team? Of course. We've talked about that several times. I think bringing in Patrick Beverley is seriously important for what it is we want to do defensively in our guard position, and also for our culture and what he's going to bring in terms of fire and driving and being a driving force of motivating the team to make the playoffs and get us further than we're than we expect to go. So that's the type of player that you bring in with the intent of lighting a fire underneath others, creating chaos for your opponents, and ultimately putting defense on the floor for you. So I value him as a real piece that we would probably use for more so the second half of the season in the playoffs, which is why I don't want to bring him in right now. Because if we acquire him right now, we only have a partial role for him anyway. But you're going to bring him in to pay 15 minutes a game, sit like half of those games. Throughout the course of an 82-game season, he's going to get hurt maybe twice. So it's one of those situations where it's like, why pick him up now? Trade assets that you want, young players like THT, of whom you have no business trading for a 34-year-old guy. Why would you trade him, THT, for him and then bring him in for the first half of the season where you really don't need him? You're going to have somebody in place. Either it's Russell Westbrook or Kyrie Irving. We're going to have somebody in place. And even if it's not those guys, it's going to be someone else. If it's Austin Reeves, it's not going to be him starting, regardless if we acquire him. So that's the first thing we understand. And then the second thing is, again, you can get him as a buyout candidate. It's very, very likely that he's going to find himself somewhere that's going to waive him halfway through the season this year. Then from there, he's already made it very clear that he wants to play with LeBron James. He's 34 years old, so I don't know how many more seasons he has to accomplish that goal. So that means he's probably going to try to pull that off right now. So there's no reason for us to trade assets for him. Sign that man at the halfway point, and let's continue to build properly. I feel the same way in regards to Kyrie Irving to a degree. If we don't have to trade for him right now, we know Brooklyn's going back to the drawing board with him. We know he ain't going to want to be there. We know he wants to be a part of what we're doing. Then why the heck are we going to trade assets for him? You wait. You make them go back to the drawing board to buy him out and then pick him up at the halfway point or the buyout market or whatever would be available to you at that moment. The only team that's really interested in him is us, from what I understand. And maybe Miami at the expense of letting go of Kyle Lowry's contract, which, if they don't do the deal that I proposed in my mock trade yesterday, they probably will not be getting rid of Kyle Lowry, because it's the only hope I see of them actually getting that contract off of their books. So there's a situation where you look at all of that and you just say, I believe I believe Kyrie Irving is ultimately going to end up a Laker. I don't think he has any other suitors. So we need to just be wise as we can be, wise as possible in regards to how we acquire him. And if we don't have to bring him in for $36 million to assure he's a part of this thing this season, then we need to make sure we don't do that. And so that's also part of it. But as far as THT is concerned, trading for Patrick Beverley is an absolute no-go. No logical person who knows what they're talking about is trading a 22-year-old wing in this climate for a 34-year-old point guard that they hope to help them for one season as a role player. No, that's just stupid. That doesn't even make any sense. And this is the type of thing that I feel like the media is trying to push forth on Laker fans to troll us, to be honest with you. They're trolling us with stuff like this. They want us to give away our assets for little to nothing. They want us, Laker fans, and the field who's going against us and all of that, and most of all, our front office to second-guess themselves with the value of our assets, so we deplete ourselves so we can go back to the cellar from which they want us to be, because they hate us being on top for whatever set of reasons, even though they can't live without us because they keep our names in their mouths every single day. All of their segments mention someone that involves our team or our colors or something. So they can't live without us, but they can't stand us. So it's the weird space that we live in sports, and we continue to win on top of it. So it's just going to keep happening to them. But nevertheless, this is what we're dealing with. They want us to trade 21-year-old players and 22-year-old players for guys that they basically want to blackball out of the league for talking too much on ESPN. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is value him properly, bring him in, and hopefully win a championship with the man, despite all of them. That's what we're going to do with both of those players, if you ask me. So that's what I hope to see happen. Because me personally as a fan, I'm just watching all of this anti-Laker energy going on. It's a little exaggerated this season for whatever reason. It's just a little exaggerated. Particularly the pundits in regards to what the value of our assets are. It's like they want us to think we have nothing at all and that our problems are the worst in the NBA, and BDF 44 is here to tell you that I've been paying attention to us. We got plenty of problems, but that not nearly as bad as ESPN and those who are speaking this way want us to believe. So trading THT for Patrick Beverley is not something anybody with a brain is going to do, including Patrick Beverley. He would tell you himself, don't do that. Don't trade a 22-year-old player for me. Don't do that. So don't do that. All right. And as far as THT for another deal, I heard THT for something else that I thought of. And you know, at the end of the day, it's just like this. If you can get him to a spot that's good for him, that still brings you back stuff that you like, cool. But in this climate, with players being going as expensive as they are, I'm inflating his value just like everybody else's value is inflated. Basically, I want too much for THT. That's basically where I'm at with it today. Because I look at him as a player where, even though his contract isn't great, I don't care, because guys are getting overpaid with his body type, and they're much younger, and they don't have the talent that I believe he's going to have when he arrives. Some of them dudes who are getting paid, they're not going to be what THT is going to be. So as far as I can tell, I'm not just about to be throwing away THT because he's underdeveloped and overpaid today. That's stupid. No, that's a misrepresentation of what his value is. So that value, his struggles, they're not aligned. They're not together. And that's the thing that looks kind of confusing to a lot of people. It's like, oh, THT sucks. His contract's bad. Those two things don't even go together. No, THT doesn't suck. THT has not yet developed. We paid him too soon. And so that's all it is. If we would have left him at a contract that we loved, his upside's the same it's ever been, and we could probably get something pretty decent for him. Pretty decent. And that would be a fleecing, which means I think we should get something good for him, for the upside that he has. You look at a team like Toronto and how they've been wanting THT all this time. They're sitting on the sidelines, chilling on THT, but they want him to be a part of what they do. I've been watching them for 2 years. They want THT. So don't think for a second that giving away THT just for a bag of peanuts and a couple club sodas is smart, because there are teams that are coveting him right now that are just sitting on the sidelines chilling because they know he ain't quite developed yet and they know he's on that contract. But the moment they get a chance to, they will overpay him to assure that they have him locked up. Watch. Remember what I said. They want this kid already. So what we need to do is understand that and keep his value high enough that represents not only what we believe he is, which is not as important, but what Toronto think he is, which is very important. So that is something I've been watching and keeping my eyes on. It's his value and how others look at him. There are other teams that want the man. So all in all, do not just give away THT. Just because you don't value him properly does not mean he doesn't hold value. You've messed up his value, Lakers, and that's why he doesn't hold the value he should. You fix that. We will fix that. If I'm running things, we'll fix that. So my gut says if you can get better right now and bring back something that makes absolute sense for your win now timeline, then you move on from THT and you let somebody else deal with that. But if you can see a way to not just throw him away, or if you got a deal in place that's garbage and you know you shouldn't be giving him away in that, don't. He's too young. His body length matters. He's not just a guy, and he's not going to struggle forever. His struggles right now, we've seen, like I said, a million players we've seen struggle. Trust me on this. Nah. At the very worst, he's a high-level role player. High level. Very worst. That's his floor. High-level role player. Ceiling? Way up. Way up. I've seen very small glimpses. Way up. He's a very, very high-volume, full-category performer. Not very efficient, I don't think, when he fully develops. But he's going to give you a lot of steals. He's going to give you blocks. He's going to give you assists. He's going to give you boards. He's going to give you points. He's going to do all of those things. And I believe he's going to shoot a pretty good free throw percentage, probably above 78% or something when he fully develops. I think this dude is a real dude. He's probably going to average over 18 points a game, probably like 7 rebounds. That's a real dude. So you have to wait for him to come around, but that's where I think it's headed. So do not give him away for somebody who won't be here 5 minutes from now, or somebody that you don't even have a big role for, somebody you're not even expecting to do a lot for you. Patrick Beverley. I love Patrick Beverley, and I value Patrick Beverley. I want him here. But I'm not about to inflate his value or do something stupid with THT just to bring him in. Nope. Sorry, you guys. That is stupid, and I can think for myself. So that is what I have for you. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching.